So we're going to talk about how to configure and use the Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client. First of all, I guess we'll start off with the fact that AnyConnect as a client is a modular client. Modular means that it has things we can add in or take out. All right, so what does it do? It offers a couple of things. Number one, it offers some security services. As far as the security services, that means it would support things like SSL or IP security for securing the communications. It would support our port-based authentication model, 802.1x. And of course, it also supports mobility integration with the Cisco ScanSafe. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. So those are some of the extra things that it does. Now again, being modular, like I said, it's not necessary that you have to put in the entire package if you don't want to. As I just went over there, as far as its support with the security sections, I guess we actually had a couple of those in here. But here's what's great. It supports IKE version 2. That's not something that everybody's doing these days. You know, it gives you some diagnostics with the AnyConnect reporting tool, which is kind of fun that they call that DART. So if you didn't get that, that was the diagnostics of the AnyConnect reporting tool that you can use. I did, of course, tell you about the 802.1x authentication capability. It also supports, as a part of the Network Access Manager, the 802.1ae, which we call the MACsec. And that, of course, still works on giving you the whole CIA of security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and authentication. So, you know, it gives you quite a bit of capabilities. And, of course, oh yeah, manages the user and the device's identity as well. So one of these modules that we talked about with the Cisco AnyConnect is the NAM, the Network Access Manager. Basically, that's a part of our wireless module, and it is broken down to help kind of protect us at layer 2. That means that it has a profile editor that we can use. Of course, when we're talking about securing layer 2, we could be talking about authentication options like 802.1x security, so we can authenticate as we're trying to make connections. It certainly has the Network Access Manager for us, a diagnostic, as I said, with DART, the diagnostic tool, and the ability for you to create and store profiles for both personal connections and enterprise-based connections. Now, your Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client Network Access Manager does have to be licensed. Now, first of all, Network Access Manager is free if you're using it with a Cisco wireless access point or wireless LAN controllers, switches, or in radius services. Other than that, it's something that you would have to purchase to be able to use as a licensed feature for other types of technologies. Your support requires that you have a current Smart Net contract and the related Cisco equipment. When we look at some of the options, of course, we could talk about installing the Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client. So now for this, as you can see, a VPN installer is required for installing all of the other modules. Now an end user can use the Secure Mobility Client to be able to add groups and networks. And that action, of course, means that they have to be the system administrator. Usually end users are allowed to open and use WPA, WPA2 pre-shared keys for homes and hotspots, but maybe not necessarily for the enterprise where they don't want to give away that information in case you were to give it out. So what are we going to need? Well, first of all, of course, we saw that we need the VPN installer. And then from there, of course, we have a number of different choices as far as the operating systems that we can support. And of course, it's all about the installation of the NAM module. Now, there are a number of tools that you can use to install and configure the AnyConnect client with the NAM module. One, of course, is that you could use the Cisco ASA firewall to deploy that across the network. Or you could use the standalone Network Access Manager editor, which is another alternative. And as I said, as long as it's running on anything that's Windows XP, SP3, Service Pack 3, or newer, you should have success in being able to install this client. Now, as we take a look at the AnyConnect Mobility Client installation, basically it comes as a little pre-bundled collection in the ISO file. And within that, of course, you can see all of the modules that we could be able to utilize and choose as far as what it is that we want to install. So You'd select the ones that you need, choose the installation, and then you kind of go from there. Now the install utility is what we call an HTA, which is the HTML application name to file that we use as a part of the ISO file. The Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client runs as a Windows service, which is kind of an important aspect to remember. That's one of the reasons why you have to have an administrative account. That also means that as a service, it may very well have a service account that we have to deal with as far as setting up and having permissions on the box, whether it's from a user account or just one of the ones that Windows creates on its own. Anyway, so we get it there. It loads as a service on startup usually, and it takes over the protocol management at the appropriate time based on some of your configuration parameters. Now there's a GUI that you're going to be able to use, as you can see here. The whole page there practically is a GUI that is used to operate and manage the client, and it has some of the following things that it can do for you. Number one, it could use the main Cisco AnyConnect GUI page. When you first open it up, that's generally the first page that you're going to see. And also the icon in the system tray down there at the bottom that you would have that you can get to. As you're going in there and working with that, one of the biggest options you're probably going to use is the network tile. That's available when the Network Access Manager is installed and inactive when the service is disabled. And of course, by the way, if you want to, you can always throw in your own system or company logos as well. So other things, of course, that we can see that it then begins to look like some of your regular types of access cards or access programs, where it tells you the name of your profile, the SSID, this type of security, the type of connection that it's going to be. And again, it's just designed to help you in monitoring your networks and determining which ones you want to connect to. Also, as we said, you have a little status indicator there on the system bar. It will give you confirmation that the client's been successfully started. And if it is, that means that it's started because it's there. If you left-click the icon in the taskbar opens, the Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client. The network drop-down arrow displays all of the discovered LANs or wireless LANs that you have. Of course, this is all about creating profiles. So another one of the things, of course, you could do is start off by clicking Add. And after you clicked Add, then you can begin to add the information about the type of name and SSID, the type of network it is. We're assuming wireless. Type of security options that you have that you need, and then of course, depending on your security options, you may have to put in the key itself, and then of course you click OK, and that profile is ready for you to go. EAP is a protocol that we use in wireless networks to authenticate against a centralized server. There's a lot of different flavors of it, like protected EAP, again, extensible authentication protocol. So we call the protected one PEEP, and commonly that's used in Windows for user identification, as well as the use of transport layer security. And of course, you want to see more of that. It would be found in other parts of the course. So we use it, especially if we have to do the authentication with some sort of directory service, whether Radius or Active Directory or the rest. That would come about as this 802.1x type of setup. So if that's the type of configuration you came up with, of course, you'd probably choose the right type of extensible authentication protocol, and choose, if it's going to be password-based or certificate-based or token-based that you use to be able to provide your credentials. Of course, Dart's the next one that we're talking about, which we can use to capture diagnostic information to help us in the process of troubleshooting. If we choose the default here, it says it'll include the typical log files and diagnostic information in the bundle, or I could pick and choose what I want as the custom, and then of course continue walking through the next here. And basically what it should do is show me anything that deals with potential problems or how the configuration is set up, so that we can help go through the whole troubleshooting process. So there we got to take a look at the Cisco AnyConnect as far as the secure mobility client. All right, so a lot of you might be thinking, why do I want this if I got built-in stuff with Windows? Well, because the built-in stuff it works fine, but maybe not as clean as or as feature-rich as far as the types of authentication you might be able to do, the types of security that are being offered. Certainly not as much in the realm of diagnostics, which can help you in the enterprise when you're having trouble with wireless networks. Again, it's licensed free if you use it with a Cisco wireless access point or wireless LAN controllers. AnyConnect can secure your client installation. It's during the installation, I should say. It's very straightforward. Installs as a service. No reboot necessary.